Hi guys, Samantha from Jessama Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you a little something I came up with just a little while ago that I'm sure you guys will find fun. So what you're going to need, of course in the supplies it shows you, but I'm going to be using translucent today, which it says in the supplies of course, but the translucent I will be using today is Primo translucent. Now any translucent will work for this, but personally I find that the Primo translucent or the Primo white translucent works best, but that's just a personal preference. Then you're going to want to choose some inks. Today I'm going to be using Clover, Sailboat Blue and Meadow. Oh wait, no, Mermaid. Sorry about that. And what you want to do is you want to pop a few drops onto your alcohol ink, and essentially what we're doing is we are colouring the translucent. So you just pop a few drops, and depending on how many drops you do, if you put on a lot you'll get a very rich colour, if you put on a few you'll get a very light colour. So I'm just going to pop these on quickly. And then I'll go ahead and get my brush. Whoops, just dropped it. Hold on a second. Yeah, don't drop your brush. So I'll start with the blue. And what I do is I like to just spread it over the translucent so that it dries quicker. Okay, then I'll go clean that off quickly. Now move on to the mermaid and just brush that over. Okay, then I'll go clean that off, and then I'll move on to the clover and just brush that over. Okay, and that means that it will dry faster than if it was in the drops. So I'll wait for these to dry, and I will just go ahead and mix the colours together into the translucent, so when I come back you'll see 3 sheets of a solid colour. So I just wait for it to dry, then I fold it over and over again, run it through a pasta machine and get it into one solid colour. So I'll be back when I've got these into solid colours. See you there. Okay, so I've gone ahead and mixed up our 3 colours. And so these ones are fairly light. You can get much darker colours than this, but I wanted a lightish colour. So this was run through on my thickest setting. Now what you want to do is you want to go and take this down to your second thinnest setting on your pasta machine. But that's my pasta machines. Depending on which pasta machine you have, it depends on how thick the settings are. So I'll just take that down to number 2. And just a quick thing that I found out the other day is that if you take your pasta machine, you start from the thickest setting and you then swap. So thickest setting, you roll your piece through on the thickest setting, then you take that and you roll it straight through onto your thinnest setting, or your second thinnest setting like this one. I find that it prevents rippling. But that might just be me, so just test it before you use it extensively and ruin something by accident. Now, another thing I just wanted to point out is when you're mixing alcohol inks in the pasta machine, sometimes they can dirty your pasta machine. So if you want to know how to clean your pasta machine, do have a look at my how to clean your pasta machine video. And if you're struggling with rippling with your clay, also have a look at how to prevent pasta machine rippling. I'll provide both of those tutorials in the links below the video, because it will just be a real time saver for you. So anyway, I'm not struggling with rippling at the moment, but I do sometimes, so just go check out that tutorial and it should help. So I'm just going to trim up over here because the alcohol ink did mess up the pasta machine a little bit. I'll pop that aside and put it in the scrap pile. But basically, got these on our thinnest settings. Now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and get our silver leaf. I'll just bring that over. So I just keep it in a plastic packet. Here we are. Now, before you work with silver leaf, you want to make sure that all your doors and windows are closed, because this stuff flies around. Well, it really does fly around all over the place, and if you've got any breath of wind in the room, it will fly all over the place and it can get stuck to things, and you don't really want it doing that. So just make sure that your doors are all closed. So I'm going to just show you what it looks like. Now I want to be using a full sheet for these, so I'll just show you how to apply it quickly and then I'll do the rest. There we are. So it comes basically looking like this. Sometimes the corners are folded over, so I'll just bring out that corner. There we are. That's what you will get, and you'll get a whole bunch, so it's like a little booklet. And this is what we're going to be using. So while you're working with it, you want to try not to breathe too heavily. I find that it flies around even if you breathe on it. So I'll just pop it to the side, and I pick these up and pop these to the side because I don't want these to get contaminated with leaf that I don't want on certain areas. And we'll just cover this one for the moment. So I'll bring that over, and then I'll pick up the leaf just delicately with my finger and bring it over. And it's very, very, very lightweight. So as you can see, it's very lightweight. So you got to it takes a bit of getting used to. And also it rips very easily, so you want to be careful not to put too much pressure on it by accident. But basically, you just want to lay it down on your sheet, roughly where you want it, and blow. Well, make sure you blow in the right direction. If it doesn't work, just smooth it over, like that. I find that blowing works the best if you blow in the right direction, but usually my head would be over here, and so it would be blocking the camera, and so that's why it didn't work. There we go. So you'll just smooth it over, pushing out all air bubbles. And then if you've got some areas that you missed by accident, you can just go into your metal leaf. Now this only works if you've used metal leaf for a little while, because you'll find that you have scraps, and I always like to keep my scraps just for this purpose. So see, little bit of scrap, and you can just dab it along the edge where you missed. See, just like that, very easy. So that's the first piece done. I'll go ahead and do the other two in just a second. And also, if you've got excess leaf over here, like over here, oops, I said like over here twice, you'll just go ahead and trim it with your blade, like this. Almost forgot to show you that. And now, surprisingly, even though this leaf cracks very easily, typically when it comes to you wanting to cut it off, it's actually very strong. So I'll go ahead and trim this off and go and do the other two sheets, and I'll come back when I've got them covered. So I'll see you there. Okay, so I've got all three sheets covered with the silver leaf, and I'm just going to pick this up to show you which colour's which. So this is the mermaid, and that is the clover, and that's the sailboat blue. Okay, so you'll notice that these are most definitely not the same shape. That is on purpose, because the cane that I'm going to be showing you how to make, which is what we're going to cut the Mokume Gane out of, I want it to be distorted. So that's, you can make it the same size, of course, if you want to, but I personally like to have fun and not worry about it being the same size, since you don't really need it to be the same size. And you can just randomly stack it. It doesn't really matter which ones you put on. You just want to stack it so that the silver leaf's facing up, and then you'll pick it up with your blade, and now you'll see that there's some silver leaf remnants. Just get rid of that quickly. Okay, so that's what it looks like at the moment. Now you'll want to take your blade. You can see I've got silver leaf flying everywhere, and that's what the silver leaf does. So you'll just take your blade and you'll cut the stack roughly in half. and you'll stack it so the silver leaf is all facing up again, and just pat it down so that you get rid of any air bubbles. You've got to keep that in mind when your sheets aren't all exactly the same size, because you can accidentally trap air bubbles. And then you'll just cut that in half again, roughly in half. I'm not even trying to make it the same size. I want it to be all nice and distorted. And I'll just pick that up, and I'll cut that, and I'll just pop that on top of this one too. So you can see I'm stacking the layers, so it really is just Mokume Gane with a twist. I'm not sure what the official name for this would be. I'm just going to stack it again because I want lots of layers for this. Now I've shown a very similar tutorial to this already, and that was Mokume Gane with silver leaf, where I was working with coloured clays instead of a translucent clay, and I'll provide that in the links below if you're interested in looking. But basically what we've done in this one, if we've replaced coloured clay with translucent clay tinted with alcohol inks. So what I've got now is basically a cane. And now if you're asking yourself why I didn't run it through a pasta machine, it's because first off, I don't want to crackle the silver leaf too much, because if you crackle it too much, it will ruin the effect, and the silver leaf of course won't expand, and the polymer clay will expand, and so you'll get lots of cracks if you pop it through a pasta machine. It's okay if it crackles a bit, that's perfectly fine, but I don't want it to crackle too much. So I'll just roll it out. There. Just roll it out like so. So now what we want to do is I'm going to be cutting it so that the silver leaf is facing down. You can cut it in any direction you want, I just like cutting it this direction. Now I'm going to take my blade, and actually this time around I'm going to be using my flexible blade because I want to be purposefully dipping into the clay. We're going to purposefully gouge it. So to show you what it looks like. And that's what it looks like as we gouge. It's got this really nice watercolor technique, watercolor look to it. And that's just the colors really, but it's got a really lovely sophisticated look to it. So that's basically the technique. I'll just carry on going and show you what it looks like, and you can go all the way through to the bottom. And the reason I'm not taking one solid sheet each time is because I'm gouging in different directions and different depths, and that way I get a different effect each time. Now you can use these to wrap little round beads, or you can just pop them together again in random. You can just pop the pieces together, flatten it out and make a sheet again, and that way you can use them in pendants if you wanted an entire piece. There's lots of ways to use this, let your imagination guide you. So I don't want to go too deep with this because I've cut through a few sheets in my time, so you can see there I ripped the bottom. I got a nice piece out of it. So there we are. It is very similar to my silver leaf, Mokume Gane with silver leaf video, but we've changed it to translucent, the coloured clay to translucent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what one of these looks like when it's baked, and then I'll also bring over a bead that I used, which I made using similar colours, so I can show you exactly what it looks like when it's baked, because of course we're using translucent, and translucent looks completely different when it's baked. So I'll come back in just a minute, well about half an hour actually, when I've got one of these baked, and I'll show you what it looks like. So I'll see you there. Okay, So I've baked a chip, and this is basically what it looks like when it's baked. So there's not much colour difference, but you do tend to lose the layer depth sometimes, I find, depending on how much the piece is crackled. So, and how deep you gouged as well, and the sharpness of the colours also differs. So you'd have to experiment around and see what effect you like, because the effect really depends on, firstly, how crackled your silver leaf is. Then it also depends on how sharp your colours are, how contrast in your colours are, and also how many layers you got on top of each other. So I hope that made sense. But here are 2 beads that I've made using this technique. I'll just bring them up. So you can see I've got ice resin on this, and so they really sparkle, and you can see it, there are layers in there, but it's just a really fun technique to play around with. And so I hope that you'll try it out, and if you do, please do send in some pictures. I always love to see what you do with my tutorials, and I look forward to seeing any pictures you send in if you do. So anyway, I hope that was helpful to you, and if it was, please do check out the links below, as there'll be more links to tutorials like this one, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye for now.